Shabbat Shalom. Our Torah portion today centers on a Levite named Korach, who the portion was named for. He came to Moses along with some of the other important and influential men of his class. They're upset, specifically with Moses, and they say to him, Rav Lahem, you have too much for all of the community. They are all holy. After all, God is in our presence too. Why should you alone be raised above the community? On first read, this always feels to be an entirely reasonable point. Yes, poor Moses, one complaint and rebellion after the other. It feels like the fourth book of the Torah can be renamed Murmurings and Mutiny in the Desert, or Moses and the ever-dropping approval rating. Yet this one, at least from Korach's words, looks to be legit. This is not Miriam being jealous of her brother's special relationship with God and spewing a racial slur at her sister-in-law. This is not the spies that we read about last week, who had a lack of faith in God's promise. Nor is it, as we will see in a few weeks, a magician and his talking donkey. Korach is challenging Moses' leadership model. Yet so did Jethro, when he told his son-in-law, "You cannot do this alone. You'll burn out. It is not good for the community." We treat Yitro like a hero. Yet isn't that what this previously marginal character was saying? We are all holy, share the theological wealth. Spoiler alert, that's not what God heard. We can write our own story, our own midrash. Certainly our rabbis did, filling in the spaces in between, and perhaps they did so because Korach's punishment was so great. Korach and his followers are literally swallowed up by the earth, falling into the bottomless pit of infamy. The rabbis need to explain why the aforementioned rebellions were met with far less severe punishments, whether it was a temporary skin disease or eventual death prior to reaching the land of Israel. Our rabbis paint Korach on the traditional canvas as the arch-demagogue. Yet his words, as I said, they feel legitimate. They at least have the veneer of democratic or egalitarian yearnings. But we do not need Rashi or the tales our rabbis tell. As you spend a little bit of time with his words, it becomes obvious he was no hero. He was no truth teller. He was not bringing fresh perspective as an outsider to the ruling elite who have lost touch with their people. It is clear in the text that Korach is driven not by the needs of the community, a word he wisely and cunningly continues to use over and over, kol edah, the whole community. Korach is not driven by the pursuit of holiness, nor the equalizing force of spreading that holiness. Korach is indeed driven by power and ambition. Foundational to that drive is the instinct that he is already holy. Holiness was something that he earned, given to him because of the trappings of his elevated status. Korach mistranslates the power of his training as a Levite, as a Levi, of the book of Leviticus, and the idea at the very heart of the Jewish project. We are to strive for holiness. It is a goal that we must meet head-on and live a life dedicated towards achieving that. That something, in the end, will be elusive. It is the elusive nature of that promise that makes it meaningful. The sanctity of our mission as Jews, and anyone who finds a home in our community, is that we only fulfill it collectively, kol edah, searching for the windy road of meaning, justice, and righteousness that leads to the ultimate on-ramp of purpose, to the highway of holiness. We will not get there, but its pursuit will be a holy failure. This is what the portion is teaching us as Jews. But I hope you'll give me another minute as we learn something from this portion as Americans to be heard in this moment. And since I'm in an empty room, I'm just going to take that minute. Before Moses responds to Korach, he falls on his face, maybe out of desperation or maybe out of exacerbation. But he listens Then he gathers himself and deals with the complaint levied against him, God and the nation he is trying to lead. Even though it is offensive and ridiculous, he listens and reflects on the proper way forward. A different kind of reckoning is happening all around us, a reckoning in response to a tragically real offense, a different kind of plague, and I hope we have spent meaningful time with our faces looking down. And yeah, looking down out of shame, but also, and more importantly, to give us the requisite time to figure out how we can be and do better. The muting of our voices will amplify our hearts, which will, God willing, lead to a collective reckoning that will provide a solution to fix a broken way of living in an ailing society. Community is a term that is thrown around so much. Korach certainly tries to leverage its weight. But Edah is an all-encompassing term, and it should cast our eyes outward and seek the most expansive vision of community, one that is holy because it is equal and equitable. That is holiness, and the path towards that holiness has been dimmed right now, but our eternal light is always looking to illuminate the way. We have always known that being Jewish is hard. Now we know that being an American is hard too. Yet that is why Jews, we have found a home here. We must strive to make this a home for everyone. Shabbat Shalom.